As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more.
But Jimmy, there's an interesting question. I want to go back to the Ubisoft shooter that it sounds like you played and have some thoughts on, because I'm interested in, like, partly you're saying it's important to be early to a title, but partly there seems to be like there seems to be a quality evaluation you're making, which is like, is a title worth being early in?
Exactly.
In other words, like, you know, I don't know. I mean, I could, what's a game that's launching? Like, I could go early to the re-release of, you know, the Snickers promotional game, and it's not going to do much. What do you look for in the quality of a game that makes you think this is something that's worth trying to be early at?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's a couple of different ways you look at it too, right? If you're coming into it as a content creator per se, it's a very different set of standards that you're looking for than if you're coming as a commentator or competitor. If you're a commentator, what you're looking for is an established plan of action. And, you know, not to put Overwatch on blast, but I'm going to put Overwatch on blast. They had no sort of plan. And so what the community did in lieu of a plan, and this is what's happened over time, over the course of history, because when games were released previously, esports is not the primary focus. They were focused on creating a multiplayer competitive experience, and the community is what came up in droves and created this esports ecosystem. We created ESL because we wanted to compete, right? All these tournament organizers appeared because players want to compete. When Overwatch came out, that's what the community did. We were like, okay, you guys don't have a plan. We're going to come up with a plan. And we had this huge tier 3 and tier 2 scene blossoming with weekly tournaments, monthly tournaments, all through this ecosystem that was very established. It would have been great to integrate something like that, right? If you're a commentator, you look at what the community has brought to the game and you're like, okay, I can commentate these weeklies, I can commentate these monthlies, and I can see myself working up in terms of importance. But if there's no plan of action, you're kind of lost. You don't know what to do. So when Overwatch came and completely blew up the tier 3 and tier 2 scene, that not only neutralizes all of your talent because they don't know where to go, they don't know how they're going to pay their bills, they don't know how they're going to do anything because they don't know what the future of the game looks like. And the same goes for a competitive player. A great game that is a game that's a great example of doing it correctly, I think, is Rainbow Six Siege, right? They come out with the game and it's not in a complete state. It's not great for the first 2 years. 2 years later, they release a 5-year plan detailing exactly how they're going to grow for the next 5 years. Hey, you guys can count on support from a developer standpoint that we're not going to leave you high and dry, that you're going to be competing in this game and we're going to listen to the community. We're going to work on it. That sort of commitment from the company allows a commentator to take the dive and be like, I'm going to commentate this game. No matter what it is, I'm going to grind this game, and eventually it's going to work out because they've got a plan and I can try to stick to it and try to, you know, make my milestones match theirs. And then somehow, you know, some way you guys will align. With the Overwatch strategy of just completely destroying your tier 2 and 3, you put a lot of jobs and lives on risk. And it's like they're doing a similar thing now, taking the team sizes from 6v6 to 5v5. You leave that other person out and their role is completely useless now. What do you do with these past 5 years that you spent with this game? You know what I mean? Like, that sort of volatility is the last thing you want to see. So what you're looking for, if you're a commentator, if you're a player, if you're a streamer, is consistency from the developer, a track record of communication with the community, and a commitment to excellence in esports. And what that really means is just creating a product and being committed to understanding that, hey, might not be the greatest competitive game right now, but we're going to get there. That sort of commitment is really what I'm looking for before you can make that jump.
So, I mean, if I'm going to jump in, but I'm just curious, like, do you think that in some sense, commitment is more important than quality, right? So in other words, like, a lot of a sport is permanence, right? Like, it's just there, right? And what you're talking about is like, I know it's going to be there next year, so I'm okay investing into it this year, right?
Exactly.
Like, And, you said Rainbow Six Siege wasn't maybe the greatest game at launch, but, you said 5-year plan, confidence, and it, you could see it turning into something excellent. Is that a lesson for developers, which is, look, like, don't be focused on where your game is now, focused on if you securing the resources and believing in your original vision for the long term?
Absolutely. And I think that's really key. And that's, I think, a fundamental difference of companies like Ubisoft and Activision Blizzard, right? Whereas Ubisoft was okay being that kind of middling tier 3 shooter for 2 or 3 years after launch. They were okay with that. But over time, being consistent, releasing quality updates, and just allowing the player base to know, hey, we're really not going to go anywhere. That allows you to, right, you gain respect on so many different levels. And the same applies for being a streamer or a content creator or for being a commentator. You need to just work at it. You're not going to be a great commentator off the start. No one is a great commentator off the start. If you guys listen to my commentary from 2015, you would laugh. I was just awful. But you need to just do it. Do it every day and just get better. And just by virtue of consistency and practicing, you will get there on all fronts. So I do think, consistency and just showing up every day with a smile on your face and just ready to work is just the hugest thing, especially in this space where it's so hard to get in a big way. It's very hard.
How would you contrast that with the publishers and the titles like maybe Fall Guys or Apex that were kind of the inverse, right? They actually had very strong starts and then maybe tapered off a little bit, and we're waiting, Apex obviously recently coming back around full circle, but as opposed to what you had just shared with, these other developers that are in it to win it, patient for the long game. I'm just curious as to the inverse.
Definitely. Yeah. With a game like Apex, the reason I think it did so well is because of the other two things, right? When you look at track record, you have developers from Respawn who have created probably the most popular edition of Call of Duty ever, Modern Warfare 2, right? And that era of Modern Warfare, the most popular. And I think when people come to their product, they know that they have that track record. And then when you get your hands on the final product as well, Apex plays unlike any other shooter on the market in terms of fluidity, motion, the way you have to think about the game. It's a very unique product. And so when you have something that feels like a passion product come from a company, which is what Apex felt like, I'm assuming for many people, because that's what it felt like for me. It felt like Respawn detached themselves from the corporate behemoths that were beholding them before and created this game out of EA's ashes. It seems like, right? EA did not have a great track record, still don't have a great track record, but this was a win for them. I think when it comes to something like Apex Legends specifically, you look at track record, you look at consistency, and then you get your hands on the game and you feel it and you're like, okay, this is made to be a competitive title. I can see this getting better just by the attention to detail, the attention to micro mechanics, the way the gun movement feels, the way the recoil feels. Like those things are competitively tuned. And a game like Fall Guys per se, that's just something that's like, it's like a party game almost that has legs because the barrier to access is so low. You know what I mean? So anyone can play it, anyone can get in on it, and anyone can understand that, hey, this is a lot of fun for a lot of people to play. So that game was almost like a no-brainer when it came out. But I feel like if you pitch that game to a lot of people, they wouldn't be a fan of it. You know what I mean? It's something that needs to be an execution, something that needs to be experienced in a party setting or with a group of people to really make sense. So for both those things, I think it's a track record and two, just feeling out the game. What does it actually feel like when you're playing it? And so I think where Ubisoft has their work cut out for them is that end. They might have the plan and the action for it. Will their game feel as good? And so I don't remember the X Division, XD, X Defiant. X Defiant. Yes. Yeah. Their game overall just feels really floaty. The movement looks kind of jank, looks kind of like COD Mobile. The recoil, not great on it. What I'm excited for is to see them improve. And maybe I'm completely wrong on those things because I got all that information just from watching a couple of videos. If they can improve on that and show their player base, hey, we're committed to making this feel good like they did with Siege, they're going to have a banger of product on their hands.